Welcome to Connect Canyons, a podcast sponsored by Canyon School District. This is a show about what we teach, how we teach, and why. We get up close and personal with some of the people who make our schools great. Students, teachers, principals, parents, and more. We meet national experts too. Learning is about making connections. So connect with us.
So today we are talking to Alison Keddington, and you are the perfect person for us to talk to about sixth grade, because what's your background within?
So sixth graders are my jam. I have been teaching in the Canyons District since we became Canyons District. I taught sixth grade at Peruvian Park Elementary for my first 5 years of teaching, and then was part of that reconfiguration, which was 10 years ago, by the way, 2013. 2013 was when we bumped all our sixth graders into the middle school, and I moved from Peruvian with a small population of the students from that neighborhood over to Albion Middle. And I taught there for 8 years, kind of helping with that transition of what sixth grade is going to look like in the middle school. And then the past 2 years, most recently, I've been an instructional coach over at Mount Jordan Middle and have helped their sixth grade teams especially also help these kids with this transition. It's a tough one, but it doesn't have to be super tough. And I think that if parents could understand what supports they really have and what, the sixth grade teacher is a different breed of teacher, in my opinion. A lot of them still have that elementary mentality. And I think that just from what I've seen, the teachers in Canyons District do a great job, sixth grade especially, getting those kids really excited. They want them to love school, and they want that sixth grade year to be the year that really sets them up for success.
It's hard as a parent, though, because I have a sixth grader, and as you're going into it, you can't help but think of junior. For me, it was junior high.
Yes.
Right? And junior high are the trauma years.
Yeah,
for most adults,
absolutely.
Junior high is the trauma
worst
years.
3 years of my life.
Yeah,
and then decided to spend my career there. Why? I don't know.
You have to go back and fix those trauma wounds.
Yes.
But it totally is that time where you're so awkward and kids are so awkward. So as a parent, as you're sending in, they still feel like your baby. They seem so little.
And they are babies. The
They
beginning
are.
of sixth grade, they're little kids.
So what is the best way to help your child going forward? Because for my daughter in particular, I know that she totally has the intelligence to do things.
Yes.
But when it comes to more of the organizational skills, that's the part that I'm a little concerned about, because I'm the 50-book challenge was a little bit of a challenge over here.
Yeah.
So how do we keep
Exactly.
when you go forward?
It's that executive functioning, I think, is the teacher phrase that you would hear, is the skills of executive functioning, the organization, the time management, things like that. And I think there's two sides to middle school. There's academics, and then there's the social transition as well. And my first thing I want to say is that sixth grade 100% is meant to be in middle school. I think socially, the difference between an eighth grader and a ninth grader is way bigger than the difference between a sixth grader and a seventh grader, just in their understanding of the world, of the things that we maybe don't want our kids to be introduced to or talking about yet. Those ninth graders need to be in high school. And so bringing these sixth graders in, I think, has been a huge blessing and success for the families in Canyons District as well, whether they realize it or not. The teachers that we have in sixth grade are, like I said, a completely different breed. A lot of them did come up from the elementary schools. Our middle schools and our sixth grade teams, they still do the little, what we call the token economies, where there's class points or there's bucks or things where you can earn, and the kids respond to that kind of stuff. I think that our middle schools in Canyons District really do a good job placing that team, we're the team of teachers mentality. For example, we've got the 4 core classes. You've got science, math, social studies, and language arts. Those 4 teachers will share the same 150 kids. So if there are issues, whether it's academically or behaviorally, with your student, all four of those teachers can work together and identify an intervention that's going to work for that kid, and then be able to be consistent all day long about it, just like they would have been in elementary school. They know that I have this kid for an hour and then I'm passing him off to somebody else, but the person that I'm passing him off to needs to know the plan. They need to know what this kid did the last hour, what's been happening, what's working. Even if it's this kid is struggling with reading, the science and the social studies teachers, they're on board. They know what that kid is struggling with or what supports those kids need. One thing that parents could do is, if there's an issue that comes up, you don't have to go just directly to one teacher. It's okay to, if you're sending an email out of concern for your kid, go ahead and CC their whole team of teachers.
I know one of the biggest things that my child is worried about is having multiple teachers.
The fact that there are these different teachers, that's an executive functioning skill also for kids to learn how to deal with different types of teachers. Because just personality-wise, we're all human. The children are humans, the adults are humans in the situation, and they all have different personalities. And chances are, even if your kid is a really great kid, there's going to be a teacher or two that they just don't mesh well with. Or maybe they're going to have their favorites. You as a parent are going to have your favorites. We also love it when those sixth graders learn to advocate for themselves. And that's something that I think is one of those more organization type skills that really is going to help them through high school and college too, is being able to take responsibility and then solve their own problem. I'm gonna tell you a story really quick. So Skyward is amazing. It's an online grade book, and that's something that you and I didn't have to deal with when we were kids. Our parents could not check our grades every day like they can now. I'd been working at Albion for a couple years, and I remember there was parents who had set a notification through the Skyward app to be notified anytime a teacher put in something as a 0 or checked it as a missing assignment. And okay, on one hand, that's awesome, that parents can be notified of that. But the other hand was, when it's an immediate notification, parents were finding out about that before their kids were. That I had put a 0 in or a missing assignment in. And I'd get an email literally minutes after updating my grade book from the mom or the dad saying, hey, my kid, what does this look like? I'm sure it's my kid's fault. What does the paper look like? Where can he get an extra if he lost it? And I'm like, ask your kid that first.
Yeah.
Your kid's not even home from school yet. And it's not that I don't want to be helpful as a teacher. It's that I want your kid to learn the skill and to learn from this. If it was a mistake, maybe he does have it in his backpack. Maybe he did turn it in and just didn't have his name on it. Those are such common things, especially with our little 11-year-old sixth graders, that it's such a learning year. And sixth grade is so low stakes. It's a perfect year to kind of let your kids, struggle a little bit. Let them use this as learning experiences. Oh, look what happened when you forgot to do this. It's okay. You don't have to be in trouble. You're not going to fail the class. Let's fix it and learn from this to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I think so often as parents, too, we have to kind of remember that our ego needs to be separated from things
Sure.
I know this is something that I make this mistake often, where it's oh no, what's the parent, what's the teacher thinking of me as a parent? If my kid hasn't turned this in, that means I failed as a parent, when really it's let them learn.
Yeah.
Let them, it doesn't mean that I failed.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that anybody's failed. This is all part of the process.
I've worked with a teacher who her own children have come through the middle school that we taught together. And she said, part of the transition for her as a parent was realizing that last week before the end of the quarter, you can check Skyward at any time. You know what grades your kids are going to get on their report card, weeks before the report cards come out. And there's a lot of parents who think, oh my gosh, my kid needs all A's. And in sixth grade, no one cares what grades they have on sixth grade. No one is going to look at their sixth grade report card. Another reason it's nice to have ninth grade in high school, because ninth grade matters. And I think that a lot of times there's those parents who say, oh no, you have 2 weeks left. We need to find out how you can get your grade up by the end of the quarter. What a stress that must be on an 11-year-old kid, of that feeling of I've failed this, and now there's no time, and now these next 2 weeks are just going to be horrible for me because I have, 20 missing assignments, and I got to get them all in. And are they really learning like academically, are they learning from that? No. It's a quick fix, turn it in mentality. But are they even learning from that? Or are they going to repeat that same mistake the next quarter? Like rather than, push for, we got to get everything done this last week so that your grade moves from B+ to A-, like that little thing there might be a reward in the brain of like an adult, but like I don't think the kids really care.
Well, and it also can feed the anxiety beast for future years, where like you set up your kid to feel like, oh no, I'm failing at something, and I'm going to worry about it, to the point that you almost put them in that fight, flight, or freeze at the end of the school year of, oh no, where am I at?
And it's going to become a cycle because, in middle school, they do have that fresh start. They have that fresh start every term. They're back to, anything that happened before that cutoff date doesn't matter anymore. And so why not have that conversation? Have the, 2 weeks from now, you get a fresh start. What are we going to do differently for the next 12 weeks to make sure this doesn't happen again?
What resources are available for parents as they're in middle school to help their kid to make sure that, they don't fall in by the wayside and start making some bad choices?
Middle school is not like a high dive into a deep end sink or swim. It's not that. Think of it more like a zero entry pool where they really do get to kind of tiptoe in. We're holding their hands, we're leading them to deeper water, and kids move at different paces. Some kids get there faster than others. And then there's some kids that by the time they do get to the point where they can't touch the bottom of the pool, they're literally given floaties. Like if we need them to have a floaty, we will give them a floaty. The first line of defense, I think, is not your teachers, but your actual kid. Like you need to find out, like, what do they need? Is it a social emotional need? Is the reason, especially if they feel like they're struggling at school, is it because they don't feel comfortable talking to their teachers? Is it because they don't feel like they have friends? Is it, is there a reason why there's like an anxiety socially of going to school? Because there's not a whole lot that we as teachers can do if we don't know what the problem is. And kids are really good at hiding that. Also, I mentioned reaching out to the entire team of teachers as a whole. And then if there's an issue where you think that there's like an academic issue or like a learning disability or a social emotional problem that you think is severe enough to need like some sort of accommodation for your kid, I think it's best to actually go to their school counselors or the school psychologist. They're going to work with the team of teachers and they're going to keep those teachers like 100% like involved on decisions that are made or like little accommodations here or there that we want to make for kids, things like that.
During the summer, your structure kind of goes out the window, at least for non-teacher parents. Teacher parents might have more structure during the summer. What would your suggestions be to prep your kids to get back
ready for school
to school again?
Yeah, and I think every family's different, and I'm a firm believer you do you. If you survive summer, however you can survive the summer. But by the time it gets to be August 1st, you need to be getting into back to school mode. And I think the first thing is sleep. There's so many kids, especially around that 11 to 12-year-old age, who they're starting to stay up a lot later. They're starting to sleep a lot later, and that's great. That's healthy for them to sleep longer throughout the morning. But even if it's just planning some fun family activities, those like first 2 weeks of August that start earlier in the morning, because that just kind of helps them get more into the routine of we got to get up, we got to get ready, we're going to go, maybe it's just we're going to go on a hike or we're going to go to Lagoon or something like that. We're going to do some fun things. It's still summer, but we need to start that morning routine, getting back into that, especially because our middle schools do start even earlier than our elementaries. Most of them start by 7:30, 7:50 in the morning. And so planning some summer activities to get them up out of bed and then helping them to get away from their screens and their technologies in the evening. And then also throughout the summer, just the biggest thing that we hear teachers saying is just reading. Like whether it's for fun or forced, just making sure that they have time to read. And it can be on a screen. There's apps that require reading. There's Kindles. There's things like that too. But just keeping them reading keeps their brains going just fine. And then just getting them back into that routine. And plan on about 2 weeks worth of getting them up and at it in the morning.
Do you have some good book recommendations for
For
middle
sixth
school?
graders, absolutely. The big one, Harry Potter, is still very much on the table. If your kids haven't read it yet, sixth grade's the perfect year to start because that's when our Harry Potter kids are 11 years old. It's like it's the kind of the same feel of them starting a new school as well. And then for those who've already done that, the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. The reason why that one's really great for sixth grade is it actually aligns really well with the sixth grade social studies curriculum. They study ancient Greece and Greek mythology, and it's always really exciting for the kids to make those connections, and they come in kind of already knowing like some of the Greek gods and goddesses and like their personalities and things like that.
And you had mentioned that you had some do's and don'ts. What are some don'ts?
Oh, some don'ts for sixth grade parents. Okay, so this rather than preparing, this is when school starts. Here's a couple don'ts for you. Number one, don't expect your kids to get all A's. A lot of your kids will, and that's great. But just because they got perfect scores on elementary report cards doesn't mean that academically they're going to perform that well in secondary school. School gets hard. This is the first time they have science as an actual class, and not every subject is going to click with every kid. And that's just a huge point of anxiety that we see with these little kids, that they're doing their best just to get their work turned in, just to make it to find their classes on time. We want sixth grade to be a positive experience. And we would really love for parents to award effort more than that overall grade. What I wish parents would do is set a goal for 100% work completion. Like, that sets such a different mentality of, if the responsibility's on you, you've got a lot of, assignments from every single class. Some of them are in school, some of them are at home. And teachers do a good job putting on Skyward, like, they can say things that are missing, and you can check as a parent for missing assignments. And that's something that if a kid could say, no matter what scores I get, I'm going to turn everything in this quarter, that would be a game changer for these kids to have that be their goal. Another don't, I would say, for parents is don't keep your kids home from school if they don't need to be home from school. Missing one day of middle school is like missing a week of elementary school, and your teachers don't collect a cute little folder for you like our awesome elementary teachers do and saying, oh, we missed you, here's what the work that you missed yesterday. It's totally on your kid. And some kids can handle that responsibility. They know how to talk to adults. They can approach their teachers. They can ask them for what they missed. And a lot of kids don't. It makes them really nervous. It's the last thing on their mind. If they've missed a day of school, they don't want to have to go make up any work. But they are responsible for that. The majority of assignments won't be excused just because you weren't there. We see a lot of families in Canyons District who take long vacations, and that's fine. I mean, in my opinion, as a parent, like, you prioritize what you want to do for your family. If you're taking a week-long trip to Disneyland that's not in line with a school break, that's okay. If that's what your family's priority is, just know that your kid's going to have some anxiety and feel behind when they get back from school. And if it's right before the end of the quarter, their kids' grades on your report card might be a little off from what you or your child expected. And just be okay with that. Teachers are doing a good job putting things online, and a lot of parents think that, like, oh, my kid can stay home and just do it online. And that's true for some teachers, and it's not true, but not true for all teachers, and not true for all kids. Sometimes you think your kid's getting caught up online and still submitting things even though they're not at school. But really, like, we can't teach your kid if your kid doesn't come.
Is there anything else that you would recommend to parents as they get their kids ready?
I think the last big thing I would recommend socially is just to be aware of who your kids, who their friends are, and make sure they have friends. A lot of parents, a lot of kids, I guess, worry that, you have to have a lot of friends. You have to be popular. You have to have tons of friends in middle school. And that's not true. You need one friend. You need a good friend. And it's someone who is happy for you when good things happen to you, and it's someone who makes you want to be a better person and is supportive of you doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. I think a lot of parents think their kids need phones in sixth grade. That is 100% not true. We still have the phone at the front office that they can call you after school if they need to. That hasn't gone away. And just those kids who do have phones and have lots of friends, and some of our younger kids who do participate on social media and stuff like that. If you're not already, like, this is when you need to start monitoring that. There's a lot of things that can get really out of hand really early and really young with those kids. And we do what we can at school to protect kids and to monitor what's going on, even on their personal devices. You know, we get reports all the time of cyberbullying or kids who are making inappropriate posts on social media, and that all comes through the school and the school counselors and the administration. We know about all of that, and it causes problems at school. But when it's happening is at night at home. And so that would be my other thing is if you do choose to have, if your kids already have phones, or if they choose to have phones, it might be time to, you know, come up with a plan with your kid of how you're going to make that safe for them and make sure that it's not a distraction at school and make sure that it's not going to hurt their friendships, but will be a tool, not a toy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and for helping us get excited and get ready.
Yeah.
Not terrified to send our babies off.
No, sixth grade is truly like one of the best years for these kids. And if we can keep it a positive experience and keep them excited about school, it just puts them on the right foot.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect Canyons. Connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Canyons District, or on our website, canyonsdistrict.org.